Welcome to the podcast, Entrepreneurs Share Secrets with Sandra Mossman. And today I have a guest, Adrienne Green from the WorkerGenix.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here and share whatever I have learned with others to help them.
Thank you. What do you do? What's your business is?
So my business, WorkerGenix, is a virtual staffing company, and we help entrepreneurs and business owners easily get virtual assistants to add to their team to get leverage. My husband and I started this business after, as a real estate agent, I brought on a virtual assistant myself, and we saw the difference it made in my business. It helped me as a real estate agent go from a solo agent in a new market with a brand new baby business. And within just 6 months, I was starting a real estate team because I had more business than I could service myself as a solo agent. And that was because I brought on a virtual assistant as an executive assistant. They were able to help with all the admin work, all that back end stuff. I was able to spend my time doing the things I needed to do, marketing, sales, getting new clients, lead generation, and it blew up my business. So after we saw that, we started this company, WorkerGenix, to help other business owners get that same benefit from virtual assistants.
Mm-hmm. For how long have you been a real estate agent, and how long you had this company, virtual assistant?
Sure. So I was an active real estate agent from 2018 to 2023. I actually sold my real estate team at the end of 2023, and having virtual assistants on as all of our admin support increased the value I sold it from, as a little bit of a side point there. And then we started WorkerGenix about 2.5 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Would you say what the real estate market or the way real estate people get the clients right now, is it different than how you started in 2018?
I think that it's more challenging right now just because there's less people buying and selling with the higher interest rates and some other factors in the market. And yet it's the same general tactics that we need to use as salespeople in any industry, right? It's about who you know, networking, getting out there, talking to people, making those connections, and providing value, right? I mean, there's multiple ways to sell, but for me, it was always, let's provide value. Let's interact with people we know, that show that we're the subject matter expert, that's add value to them. And then when they need our services, we'll be top of mind. So I think that has stayed the same. It's just more challenging because less people are needing to buy or sell right now.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I would like to talk more about your real estate a little bit, business,
Sure.
How you were successful from real estate. You're told that after 6 months you hired the VA. Why you hired VA, and not so many people in real estate hire somebody?
Well, let me give you the full story, Sandra. So I started real estate investing back in, I think 2016 is when we bought our first investment property, separate from doing some investment stuff with primaries. And so I got into real estate as an investor and realized how valuable that was. And so then in 2018, I got my real estate license, partially for my own investments and partially to help others, because I knew how powerful of a tool real estate could be for building somebody's net worth, for building their income, for building financial freedom. So in 2018, I got my license and I was a solo agent. And this was in Northern Virginia outside of DC. The market there was a pretty high average price point. It was roughly $500,000, $550,000 when I got started. And so, since real estate agents are paid a commission on a portion of the sales price, it was a pretty nice place to be a real estate agent, right? You didn't need to do a ton of deals to make a 6-figure income. And so that's where I started. And I was a solo agent and I was doing maybe 12 to 15 deals a year, which was plenty, again, to make good money. And then in 2020, everybody's world got a little crazy. And my husband and I decided that we were going to move to Chattanooga, Tennessee. So at the end of 2020, we moved to Chattanooga. And, a lot of people as real estate agents, the bulk of their clients come from what we would call like their sphere of influence, the people that they know. Well, I was moving to a market where I knew one person and she was also a real estate agent. So she was not going to be my client. So I had to completely restart my business in a new market where I knew no one. And I, along those same lines, in the Chattanooga market, the price point was a lot lower. We're talking about an average price point that was roughly $300,000. So I was going to need to do a lot more deals to make the money that I wanted to make. So January 2021 was really when I had all my licensing set up, because licensing for real estate agents is state specific. So I had to go take the test to get my both Tennessee and Georgia real estate licenses, because we were right on the border there. And so January 2021, start actively being a real estate agent in Chattanooga. And there were two things I would say that really helped me blow up my business there. The first was that I really chose a specific niche, right? Real estate agents, like a lot of different industries, can say that they're going to service everyone, right? Everyone lives somewhere, so everyone can be my client, right? And the challenge with that is that, yes, you can help everyone, and yet nobody feels like you're really the one for them. And so what I did is I niched down to working with real estate investors as my focus for marketing, outreach, all of those things. Yes, I could help people buy and sell a primary residence, but my marketing and my focus was saying how I was the best agent to help real estate investors. And I chose that niche because real estate investing was what I did first, right? That was what I knew well. And part of why I moved to Chattanooga was because it was a great market for real estate investors. And so I knew if I could be their boots on the ground in Chattanooga, if I could connect all the service providers that they needed, and then I could find these investors throughout the nation online, then I could really have a great business. So the first thing I did was I niched down to real estate investors. I focused my lead generation and other efforts like that on online, where I could meet them when they lived in different markets, right? I could meet people who lived in California and were looking for a market to invest, New York City, wherever they would be. And then the second thing I did is started in January, February, as soon as I had a couple things under contract, is when I brought on that virtual assistant. And so I brought them on early because in Virginia, I had spent just a few months on a team right before we moved. And a team is where, there's a whole bunch of agents working together, and it's like its own little business instead of like a solo agent. And I saw on the team how they had virtual assistants, and I saw how helpful that was. I saw how when you allow the agent to focus on what the agent needs to do, right? Interacting with clients, lead generation, doing the things only an agent can do, and you have someone else doing all the paperwork, all the back end stuff, which there's a lot with real estate. I mean, it's a big, important transaction. There's a lot of paperwork, a lot of contracts, a lot of back end stuff. When you take that off the agent's plate, I saw how much more productive the agent could be. So that's why when I started again in Chattanooga after moving, that very second month, as soon as I had money coming in, I went and got a virtual assistant. And that's what allowed me to blow up that business and really create a team within 6 months. And then roughly 2 years after creating the team, I was selling that team for income. It was a valuable asset that I could sell as a business and move on to other things.
Mm-hmm. When you started as a real estate agent for investors, and you told what you found different investors from different states, how did you find them?
Great question. And it was all online. And so it's like, well, where are these people online? And there was some investor specific websites or forums, like Bigger Pockets is one of them. And so I would go to those places. Facebook groups that were specific for real estate investors, I would go there, I would post there, I would comment, I would direct message in not a salesy way, right? In a value add way of, hey, you made a post about looking for a market. Have you considered this market? Here's what I know about it, and adding value like that. And then also YouTube was something else that I did in terms of direct lead generation, making videos, going out there and adding value, right? Here's what it's like in Chattanooga. Here's what this neighborhood looks like. Here's my interview with a property manager here in Chattanooga, right? Things like that I could put out there that would add value. And then of course, doing the follow-up. But that's where I would find people from all across the nation. Mm-hmm. And the world, actually.
And you focus on the Facebook and YouTube, yes? Where you was focused on?
Facebook, YouTube, and Bigger Pockets. There was some aspect of networking, like you said. There are some others who are in the real estate investing industry who, like coaches or coaches who specialize in working with real estate investors. That could be some good connections and referral partners as well.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay. So for your VA team, who did you hire first when you wanted to have a team of VAs?
Right. So I brought on, and this is what do recommend to people, this worked out well, is I brought on kind of like an executive assistant, somebody who was a general VA and could do a little bit of everything. So one of the first things I handed off was what we would call in real estate the contract to close process, which is from when we go under contract on a property, buying or selling, all the way to closing day. So that was one of the first things I handed off. There were probably 24 steps in the contract to close process, right? There's, making sure we have all the contract documents, assembling the contract, sending it to the buyer, to the title company, to the lender, right? Doing follow-up emails, coordinating the home inspection, right? Negotiating the home inspection after that, following up to make sure that the lender gets the appraisal, that that's all good, following up with the title company, coordinating the actual closing. And with our clients often being long distance, they weren't just going into the title company's office. We had to coordinate a notary going to their house or something like that. And a lot of these, some of it, maybe 10-20% I still had to do, right? I had to go to the home inspection. I had to negotiate the home inspection, things like that. And yet 80-90% of it was emails, phone calls, paperwork things that a VA could either do entirely or at least prep for me to review so that they were doing a lot of that work. That was one of the first things I handed off, but they also did, we talked about YouTube videos. They were the ones who were posting the YouTube videos, right? Doing all of that administrative work so that I would record the video. I'd come up with the content because that's what I needed to do. But all the administrative part of making it go on YouTube and promoting it on social media was something a VA could do.
And you hired this general assistant who specialized in the real estate, or it was just general person who want to help? Want to work as a VA?
That's a great question as well, because sometimes you want to hire somebody who has industry specific knowledge and sometimes it's not necessary. So in this case, my first VA did not have any real estate specific knowledge, and that was fine because I had all the real estate knowledge. She didn't need real estate knowledge. She just needed to know how to write a procedure, how to follow a procedure, and how to figure stuff out, right? That's a big skill of an executive assistant. Like, I don't want to have to teach you how to figure out how to post something on YouTube, right? That's something that I am not an expert in per se, and they need to be able to just figure it out or find the resource to do it. Now, there are other times, though, when it is smart and it does make sense to hire somebody who has industry specific knowledge. So when I started the team, it was actually a crazy time. And so, when I started 6 months after hiring that first VA and I start my real estate team, well, my brokerage that I was with was also changing the system that they were using for e-signature and documents. We were switching from something called Dotloop to something called DocuSign. And I have very little experience with DocuSign at the time. And I was starting the team. My first VA actually was quitting right then, and I was having to replace them. And so at that point, it was really important when I was hiring another virtual assistant that they needed to know DocuSign because I did not. And so rather than me taking on the responsibility of learning DocuSign, I was like, you know what? I can just hire a VA who already has experience with DocuSign, and they will bring that knowledge to the table that I don't have. And so that became a requirement for that position, and that worked out really well. So there are times when having specific knowledge for an industry or specific knowledge with a certain tool really adds value.
Did you ever experience that you tell that this knowledge is mandatory, but the person like VA tells like, yes, I know it, I can figure it out, and then as a result, they really don't know it? What do you do with it?
Yes, that has definitely happened. And that is something that now we put into our, our hiring process. What we do is if they're supposed to know how to do something, like let's say video editing, right? They need to know how to edit a video. I don't just want to look at their portfolio of their prior videos that they say they've edited, because how do I know that they're the ones who actually did it? Like, sure, 9 times out of 10, the people are being honest, but sometimes they're not. And 2, how do I know how long it took them to do it? Because that's a really important aspect of it. Like, anybody can edit a video given a week, right? But if I'm going to need a video editor who's going to get me several videos done per week, I need somebody who's an expert at it and can do it quickly. And so something for tasks that are really specific like that, like video editing, or maybe bookkeeping, or social, graphic design or things like that. What I will do in the interview, and what I would recommend to people now, is give them a task and a set amount of time to do it, right? So your interview, like if it was that they're going to do graphic design. Your interview, you might time block an hour. You might have your interview for half an hour. And at the end of that half hour time, you say, okay, here's a graphic design task. I need you to email me your final product by the time within a half an hour. Whatever stage you're at, I just want to see what you can do in half an hour's worth of time. So that's one way that you can vet for that and make sure that they have those skills. Another thing is there are some assessments for things. We also have an assessment for bookkeeping skills to see how they can do with that. But yes, if you really need a specific skill, you want to ask some questions. You can kind of suss it out in the interview a little bit. You can have a test like that or another assessment. But yeah, I had once, we use Monday.com. I love Monday.com as a project management system and highly recommend using a project management system when you have any kind of business where anyone who's working for you. And when we first switched to Monday.com from what we were using before, I hired a VA to build it out. And she said she knew Monday.com and she didn't. And what was so funny is there can be some, when you're dealing with different cultures handle things different ways, right? And rather than just say, hey, I can't meet the deadline that you have set there, which the deadline was a rough deadline. If she had said, hey, I need more time, I would have extended it. But, culturally, rather than do that, she actually said that she and her mom had COVID and had to go in the hospital because this was back when, at the time in the Philippines, if you got COVID, you were more likely to go to the hospital. And she quit, saying that she had COVID because she couldn't meet a deadline because she had overpromised what she could do with Monday.com. So it doesn't happen often, but it does happen. And that's why we now have some systems in place to check for that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Who was on your team when you built the real estate team? You had general this assistant, then
yes.
This was separate then from your YouTube person?
Great question. So what was so powerful about my team and what really helped when I sold it is we only ever had VAs as the back end. So pretty much the team was real estate agents who were boots on the ground, buying and selling real estate, doing what they needed to do in person, and then virtual assistants doing all the admin work and support. The funny thing is, whenever I tried to hire someone local to help with the admin stuff, like maybe a runner or something like that, those people, it's just really tough to hire locally, right? You have a smaller pool of people in the US. Ever since COVID, hiring has been tough. People have different philosophies in terms of work ethic. And so honestly, hiring on the back end for VAs was easier than hiring someone in person. But what that team looked like in terms of the admin support was we had somebody who would always be what we would call a transaction coordinator. So that references back to that contract to close process that I spoke of before. We had somebody because we were doing so many transactions. I think in 2022, we probably did around 130 transactions that year, I want to say. So we were doing a lot of transactions. We had somebody who was just handling contract to close stuff on the back end. That was their full-time job. We had someone else who would be originally an executive assistant who would step in with contract to close. They would oversee helping my email. They'd oversee bookkeeping. They would oversee social media. And then social media eventually evolved into its own role as well. So it'd have somebody who would just do video editing and social media posting and responding and things like that. But pretty much somebody to help with operations, with contract to close, somebody to be an executive assistant with that higher level business stuff, bookkeeping, social media, everything of that. And then eventually a social media specific person.
Mm-hmm. Do you understand what you had multiple real estate agents with you?
Yes. Yep. So the team would be typically anywhere from 3 to 5 other agents most of the time, plus myself. And we had all this admin support helping feed that business. Yeah.
I see. And you were under one brokerage, but you had separate, separate team name kind of who you work with,
right? Exactly. So I have a broker's license in the state of Tennessee, but being a broker and having your own brokerage takes on a lot of other logistical aspects, right? And so we always found that it was kind of a sweet spot to be with a brokerage who had that broker of record, who had the legal liability, who had the insurance and the office and all those things. And then we were a team within that brokerage. So the brokerage can have solo agents, the brokerage can have teams of agents, and everybody is there in whatever space works well for them.
Mm-hmm. I see. So when you started to have more real estate agents with you, like to work with multiple real estate agents, like when you started to work with multiple real estate agents, so you're telling that your team was not only before this interview, I thought you are a real estate agent and you have multiple VAs who helps you to close the deals with all your admin stuff. But now I understand what you are a real estate agent, you have multiple real estate agents, and your VA team helped you, all the real estate agents, to like smooth process. Yes?
Exactly. So we were like, I mean, the real estate team is like its own business, really, right?
Yes.
We had our own income, our own expenses, and yeah, we were our own business. And so people would be in the brokerage or outside the brokerage, becoming a real estate agent or an active real estate agent who's a solo agent, or there could have been people who were on other teams as well. I don't think I had anybody join from another team, but that's something that could happen. And then they decided that my team would be a good fit for them. It would be add value. And part of our value proposition was having those VAs, right? It was like, hey, you join my team. We have a VA who preps offers for you, right? We have a VA who checks on all these things. We have a VA who handles when you've got to, schedule a home inspection. They're the ones doing it for you, so having the VAs was part of the value proposition to show the team, show the real estate agents the value of being on the team.
Mm-hmm. So when you started to have them, like in 1 year,
well,
like
that's
6 months,
what was 6 months after I got that first VA. So January 2021, I start in Chattanooga. February, I get the VA, and it was really August when I went into we would call like a team leader or somebody who's running the brokerage. I went into her office and I was like, I am working, even with a VA, I am working until 10 o'clock at night to handle all of my clients. Like, I am not sleeping. I need to start a team because I have more business than there are hours in the day that I can help them, even with a VA doing the admin work. I need more agents here to tour the properties, to talk to the clients, to do the things that an agent needs to do. And that's when I started that team in August of 2021. And I brought on, I don't remember the exact numbers, but I want to say it was like 4 agents roughly at the time. And bringing on agents to work, sales is a tough role for people to do. And so some stayed. And honestly, when I sold the team over 2 years later, one of the agent number 2 on the team, the second agent to join, was one of the agents who ended up buying the team from me.
Okay, sweet. Okay. So let's move to your VA agency, V8 company. So you started it because you saw how powerful it can be and how it's easier for the business owner.
Yeah. Yes.
But your strategy to hire VA is to hire this executive VA, not just like social media person or just right. YouTube. Like, why you have this strategy? Like, what kind of person you hire first?
Right. So my husband and I started WorkerGenix in spring 2022. And it was really, like we said, because we saw in Chattanooga and throughout, people would either not realize that they could fill a position with a virtual assistant, right? And so they are either struggling to hire locally or failing to hire locally or not hiring at all because they can't afford to hire locally. And so we were really seeing businesses struggle with these hiring needs. So we started this business, and at first we were very general, right? We would offer part-time or full-time. So you could hire a VA 20 hours a week or 40 hours a week, and anything that could be done on a computer or on a telephone, we could find a VA to do it for you, right? We could find somebody who would do video editing or bookkeeping or all these different things. And what we found over time, because we really tracked, I love data, I love numbers, I love analyzing things. And we really tracked, well, who's more successful, right? What clients are having success? What situations are having success and which aren't? And we found that people really needed, where we saw the most success was when somebody got an executive assistant, virtual assistant. That's where they kept them for ever, right? We didn't have people who were quitting who got an executive assistant 9 times out of 10, and they were getting the most value of it because they weren't quitting, right? And they were able to more easily hand off these tasks. And that was working better than if they just hired somebody to do social media or just something else. But the truth is, if you're getting an executive assistant and you're a business owner in any capacity, right? If you have a full-time business, you can hand off 40 hours a week. So we cut the part-time option and we focused on just the full-time option. And we focused on just an executive assistant because we saw that's where people committed, where they had the most success and where they saw the most difference in their business. And so that was an evolution that we made, or a pivoting that we made as business owners, is that most people, they really need that executive assistant hire as their first time hire, and they need it full time. That's what's going to free them up to do their top 20% and really 10x their business.
Mm-hmm. And does this executive assistant, does they know how to do social media, how to do the YouTube? Maybe somebody need to, again, cut the podcast, edit the podcast. This is what what he will do.
In general, an executive assistant could be doing usually 3 or 4 of maybe a dozen different tasks. And every business, what they need is a little different. And so based on what that business needs, they communicate with us and we find a virtual assistant who focuses and specializes and is an expert in what that person needs. So we, common tasks that people hand off will be, bookkeeping, scheduling appointments, invoicing, social media, video editing, or posting videos, or just handling calendars, prepping emails, right? It really depends on the business and what that business tends to do. So, as an example, one of our clients who's been a client since the beginning is a gutter and tree trimming business. And so their business, because they're doing so many service appointments, and often the owner of the business is out on a call, right? He's doing an estimate, he's at a job, something like that. Answering the phone and setting appointments was a top priority. And that's what we find with a lot of home service providers, is they need somebody who's going to answer the phone and schedule those appointments. That was a top priority. And then invoicing, billing, that kind of bookkeeping was a top priority. So often these home service providers, I know for example, when we use some of our go-to handyman, they are billing us a month, 2 months, 3 months later, because they're not sitting at a computer to do that, right? They're out doing the work. And so for this company and for a lot, it was answering the phone, setting appointments, doing billing and invoicing and checking up on the bookkeeping like that. And then giving them an online presence, right? Setting up a website, social media, things like that. Because again, the owner of this business is out doing gutters and tree trimming. He's not sitting at a computer all day, and he doesn't enjoy sitting at a computer all day. And so those are some of the main 3 tasks. And so we got him an executive assistant who could focus on those tasks. That guy actually started part-time, that client, and got so much value that they upped their executive assistant to full-time. And that's an example of what one business uses it as. Now, other businesses will have slightly different roles for their executive assistant. And that's why we focus on finding people who are the right fit for that specific business need.
Mm-hmm. And this executive assistant, it's very smart. He should know so much things. And again, there's so much he should know. And I understand that so you hire or you find this executive assistant, one person to one client, because this executive assistant, if he only commit 40 hours per one person, he can't work for somebody else. It's right. And it's so every time. So I understand what you don't have. When you have a client, new client comes, you talk with the client, you ask what exactly he's looking for, and then you go and hire somebody. You don't have people who kind of, here I have a person for you right away.
Right. We go and hire for that specific position. Now, sometimes we may have had somebody who, we interviewed for another position who's still available, who would be a good fit, but we're never just limited to that. We're always saying, okay, here's the specifics for what this client needs, and let's go find somebody who's the perfect fit for that. It's very much driven by that. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I understand what you hire people from overseas. So what's the benefit of hiring overseas, and again, your success to US market?
Right. Well, and you made a good point about how this executive assistant is going to need to be skilled in a lot of areas, and they're going to need to be able to do multiple different things and kind of pivot, right? And so we need somebody who has that ability, right? That level of not intelligence per se, but that level of emotional IQ, maybe, where they can handle lots of things and switch between tasks and not get overwhelmed, right? And so by sourcing overseas and we source from the Philippines, we have a requirement that everybody is college educated, and that's an easy requirement to make. So we love sourcing from the Philippines because they value education. There's a lot of people who are willing to do this job who have college degrees. English is one of the official languages of the Philippines. It's taught in school. And in fact, in the Philippines, they have multiple different dialects within this multi-island nation. So English is often the go-to because, a Filipino to a Filipino, they might not understand each other in their specific dialects of their local language. They can understand each other in English, though. So we source from the Philippines because they're highly educated. They all have at least a bachelor's degree when we hire them, or we have a good supply of people with bachelor's degrees. English is taught in schools and is an official language, and they do really well. And so we focus on the Philippines. And then, of course, there's the cost difference, right? So we are able to get people an executive assistant who can speak English, who has a college degree for like under $12 an hour is what it comes out to. So it's a really good rate that people can get this high quality assistant. There's other things we love about the Philippines, but those are like the top.
How much is this executive assistant? How much you charge for it from clients?
So I think it's I don't remember the exact number. We charge around $2,000 a month is what it comes out to. And that breaks down to, like I said, roughly $12 an hour. It's 11 and change to get that full-time executive assistant. And what we do is we provide all the ongoing support. So it's not like a placement agency where we just find this person, hand it off to you and say, hey, good luck. We'll see you later. We are your service provider. So just like you have a monthly subscription to QuickBooks or to other services, and they are continuing to provide that service, you have a monthly subscription to WorkerGenix that's providing you with that virtual assistant, and that's providing you with all of the support that comes along with it. So we set up all the technology, all the accounts, everything you would need, and the virtual assistant has access to it. So we really try to be like a virtual assistant in a box, everything you need so that you're not having to piece it together. So the virtual assistant comes with a WorkerGenix professional email. They come with a virtual phone service, and we can set that up with whatever area code you want. So it's like they're calling from your local area when they make calls for you. They come with access to various tools. So we have like a Canva Pro membership they can use to do your graphic design work. We have a ChatGPT Pro account, so they can use ChatGPT when they're doing the work for you, and you don't need all these extra accounts. We have CapCut Pro, which is video editing tool they can use to do your work. So we provide the virtual assistant. We provide them with many of the commonly used tools and accounts online so that you don't have to do it. We provide that email, and then all you do is you pay a monthly fee that you can put on your credit card. We handle paying online. We handle bonuses. We handle all the HR, and you just get somebody full-time to help you.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So hiring the team or like hiring somebody is very, very difficult. Yes. And like in the beginning, you told you had this like situation where people commit or they just tell them, then they lie that they have a COVID or something. So how do you deal with this kind of people that you have the test period, or for example, maybe they don't provide such a good job, you change to somebody else, like these conflicts between the person and the VA, like how it works?
Well, that's the nice thing about our service is like we are experts in hiring virtual assistants. So the rate of things like that happening, like the situation where somebody overpromised in their Monday skills and then said they had COVID to quit, that doesn't happen nearly at all with us now because we have learned from hiring so many virtual assistants over time. We have systems in place to vet for all of that. Our director of recruiting is a Filipino. She is a virtual assistant. So she's there. She is a local, and that's a different dynamic where she can, I think, better suss out some of these things as well. So we have some systems in place, and that's really kind of our secret sauce in some ways where we've got everything figured out to handle this and really make sure that these things don't happen. Now, sometimes something happens, right? What we find the most common issue that happens now is the client says they want A, B, and C. Once they actually get a virtual assistant and the virtual assistant is working for them, they realize, oh no, I don't need help with A, B, and C. I need help with D, E, and F, right? And they come back and they're like, oh my goodness, I really thought I needed A, B, and C, but I was wrong. I really need D, E, and F. And that's where by working with us, and again, being a subscription-based service, we handle it. And so we say, okay, that's fine. You know, you had Mary Jane who was good at A, B, and C. You need somebody who's good at D, E, enough. Let's make sure we really understand your needs here now that you've kind of had this revelation, and let's go find you someone who's good at D, E, and F. And we do that and we make the switch, and it's no extra cost to you or anything like that. So we have a guarantee if anything like that pops up. Another thing that does happen is sometimes virtual assistants will quit, most often for family reasons, right? Maybe it's, we've had some virtual assistants quit because they're going to go work for family. Family ties are so important in the Philippines. And again, by being a subscription-based service, if you do not have a virtual assistant working for you, if they haven't given us time, notice to replace them, we pause your subscription when you don't have it. And then we are out there hiring, we're finding a replacement, and we're getting them up and running as soon as we can so that you have that position filled and you're not having to deal with it, which if you are a business owner and you've ever had to deal with recruiting and filling a position, you know how much time that takes and how much effort it takes, and we handle all of it for you.
Mm-hmm. And how fast do you find the person? Do you have the like 1 week, 2 weeks, months, 3 days?
So it depends on what exactly somebody needs in the executive assistant, but typically, if we don't have somebody already on our staff or somebody, who's already been through our training process yet, which sometimes we do and sometimes they're a good fit. But if we're going out and we're getting somebody who isn't in our world already, it's going to be probably 3 weeks because we do have an onboarding and training system in-house. That's another service we provide is we provide initial training to the virtual assistants to help them be a good virtual assistant, right? To help them have best practices. And that training typically takes a virtual assistant 1 to 2 weeks to work through. So that's part of that lead time that goes through getting that replacement is the pre-training that we do so that they can really hit the ground running when they're placed with you.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned what you had the Philippines partner, somebody who have in the Philippines and oversee people.
So what I would say, all of our admin support at WorkerGenix are Filipino VAs themselves. We believe in the system. We know it can work. So our director of client care is a Filipino VA. Our director of recruiting is a Filipino VA. Our video editor is a Filipino VA. Our marketing guy is a Filipino VA. Pretty much it's my husband and I, and it's Filipino VAs because they can do the work and we believe in this system.
Mm-hmm. So tell about your marketing. How do you find the clients?
Great question. So I am and there's multiple ways to market, and they're all valid and they all work for different people. I'm a big believer in kind of like I was with my real estate team, adding value to clients. And so I do a lot of marketing with social media, YouTube, podcasts like this, where we're going out and adding value to people, right? We're going out and sharing what we know and giving people education and saying, hey, if you're at a place where you need a virtual assistant for your business and our model seems like a good fit, then let's have a conversation there. But that's one of our main sources of marketing is just going out and adding value to people that we know or through resources like this.
Mm-hmm. Do you niche down to companies who you want to serve more or anybody?
Right. That's a good question because we have seen, again, looking at our data, that certain industries or certain demographics tend to do well with virtual assistants. We real estate investors, again, having a background as a real estate investor, we can definitely speak to that. So I'd say we focus on real estate investors. We focus on service-based businesses. And those can be like home service providers, like I was saying, that tree and gutter guy. It can also be like a more white collar service provider, like business coaches, attorneys, accountants, things like that. But service-based businesses tend to be the ones that really could use an executive assistant and see a lot of value there. So real estate investors and service-based businesses are kind of our focus.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And back to the price, you told what you charge $2,000 for the virtual assistant. How much this kind of virtual assistant will cost if the person will be from US?
I mean, it depends a little bit state by state. You're based in California, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So what is your minimum wage now? Like $17 an hour or something like that?
Yeah, like 15 or 16, I think somewhere. Yeah.
Yes. And that's for somebody who's going to be working at like a fast food place, right? So my understanding from my sister lives in California and other people in California is, if you're looking at an executive assistant, you're looking at $25 an hour to start, right? Other states, it might be closer to 18 to 20. And like I said, we're at roughly $12 an hour when it breaks down. So pretty significant price savings.
Mm-hmm. You told, I like how you told in the pre-interview that some people, like business owners, they would like to have VAs, but they can't spend so much money. But for the amount of money what they can spend, they really don't get so much help done. And because of they can't hire for Philippines, they really can see these results from VAs, they're like, it's efficient for them to hire somebody from VA because they can afford more time and they have like seeing more results.
Right. We just had a consult call with somebody who is a business coach based in the Los Angeles area. And she was hiring a virtual, or not a virtual, an in-person assistant for like 5 hours a week because that's all she could afford because it's so expensive in LA to hire someone. And how much value are you really getting out of giving somebody just 5 hours a week, right? They're not able to take over, your recurring tasks, things that you do a lot, because they're only 5 hours a week. And so if instead she can use that same money from 5 hours a week, and that's covering nearly 40 hours a week, if not the entire bill, then that's a huge, huge difference into how much she can hand off, and she can hand off recurring repeat tasks, and they can just keep doing it. And then that's really clearing up her time to do her highest value activities.
Mm-hmm. And when you tell these business owners what you're hiring from Philippines, do they have something like negative, like effect or something?
Sometimes people have this abstract concern of like, well, I'm not helping my local community, right? I'm helping somebody somewhere else, and that's money those are dollars that aren't going in my local community. And yet the truth is that often people cannot find who they need locally, or they can't get the help they need. And so it's often that they're not doing the leverage at all. They're not getting the assistant at all if they don't work with us and if they don't go overseas. So the truth is, it's really not typically keeping money out of your local community because you're typically not going to spend it if you have to spend it locally. That's the challenge. And so people, when we kind of explain it that way, and we also show the difference that you're making in these lives of the virtual assistants, this is transformational for them. Like sometimes people feel like they're getting such a good deal, they're like stealing from the VA. And the truth is that these VA jobs are the highest paying, best jobs that are available. So to give you a specific example, we have one virtual assistant who actually has a master's degree in public health. So this woman is highly educated. She's got her bachelor's, she's got her master's. She loves helping people. I mean, it was in public health. The challenge is when she was working locally in the Philippines, she lives in the Cebu area, she was having to commute over an hour each way to get to the college campus where she was teaching. Then she was teaching for very little money. And after she paid her gas and everything for getting there, she was barely taking anything home. Like their salaries were so small for even that relatively prestigious educated role. And so when she was able to start working for us, we got this great VA who, obviously is a very critical thinker and can achieve things. I mean, if she can get both a bachelor's and a master's in public health, she's an intelligent person. And she was a fabulous VA who applied her intelligence to social media, to organizing, to creating systems and things like that. And she was making more money than she ever made locally. And the difference that made in her life, she was able to buy herself a new car. She was able to buy a new house. And she had the challenge of both of her parents having health issues. Her mom had a stroke, and she was able, after her mom's stroke, to provide in-home physical therapy care for her mother because of the money she was getting as a virtual assistant. So this is transformational for those virtual assistants and giving them a better life.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. What I want to ask, yeah, it's like very inspirational. I forgot my thought. This like people know what you work with the VAs from Philippines. Does sometimes people message you, like people from Philippines who are VAs message you and tell like, can you find a job for me? Like hire me.
Right. So part of our recruiting process is that we have a specific Facebook page for our recruiting side, separate from our Facebook page for our client side. We have a separate TikTok for recruiting. And yeah, we have, I don't remember the exact number, but I know both have thousands of like Filipinos following, and that's part of our recruiting to get people in for sure. We'll have people send us resumes. We'll keep them on hand. Yeah.
Oh, it's interesting. I didn't know it. Interesting. Yeah. Okay. So what's your future plans for your company?
The future plans is we just want to continue to help business owners by providing virtual assistants. So, like I said, in the last 2.5 years, we've really evolved and niched down and figured out what we do well. And so we just want to keep doing it and keep helping business owners. It's great to see the transformation that they can get. And so we feel like we've got a good system here, and we just want to keep seeing it grow.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. What kind of tips you could give to the inspiring entrepreneurs to build successful business?
Right. For the aspiring entrepreneurs who are building a successful business, the tips that I have learned over time is think about what is going to increase your business's value. Think about what's going to increase your business's value and have that in mind every step of the way. So like when I named my team, a lot of real estate agent teams are named for their owner, right? I would have the Adrienne Green group if I followed convention. I did not name it that. I named it the Auburndale group, which was because it wasn't my name, that increased the team's value, that increased its business value when I went to sell. So all along the way, think about what you're doing and how you can increase the business's value. Because who knows if you want to sell it in the future. And what I found is a lot of people, they build these great businesses and then they're ready to move on because that's what entrepreneurs often do. And they can't because their business isn't set up in a way where the value is there for it to be a saleable asset. So think about its value every step of the way. Think about, if I had to sell this business tomorrow, what would this do to its value? And think about that from the beginning so you can set it up there. 2, systems, processes, procedures are huge. And that helps increase the value. It helps increase the efficiency of everything. It helps you stay in your top 20%. So many entrepreneurs are really extroverted. They love helping people. But they're not somebody who wants to do systems. You don't have to do systems yourself. Get the virtual assistant to do it for you. Realize, though, the value in having systems, procedures, SOPs in place, and be mindful of that and make sure that some part of your business, if it's you, if it's your VA, some part of your business is making progress on that every week. One little step toward having better systems and processes every week. And then 3rd, keep in mind who your client is and that connection and what the difference you're making in their lives, right? If we're getting too caught up in the numbers and the systems, we can lose sight of why we're doing it in the first place. And definitely keep that in mind.
Perfect. Thank you. And how people could work with you, and why they should work with you, your company?
Well, I think that versus the alternatives, we provide more value at a better price than the other alternative virtual staffing companies out there. We're looking at that all the time. And I think we're providing so much value at a very competitive rate that if you value your time, if you're bootstrapping it and just getting started, then yes, maybe you hire direct, but you're gonna pay for it with your time, right? You either pay with things for your time or your money. And so if you're ready at a place in your business where you can pay for that virtual assistant and the ease of it with some money, we're your answer because we are the best service, the highest quality service, concierge service at a very affordable price. And then where people can work with us is WorkerGenix.com. That's WorkerGenix.com. You can go there and actually we have a Delegate or Die guide, which is a great brainstorming tool that lists over 100 tasks that people can hand off to an executive assistant VA. So if you're like, I'm not quite sure what I could do, I think I could use this in my business, go check out WorkerGenix.com, get our Delegate or Die guide, and see what might apply to you and if this would be a good fit.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Adriana. Thank you. I think it was very helpful.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.